is everyone feeling this eclipse and full moon? You're doing super awesome. Awesome. I love to hear it. Feeling heavy, very common. So I figured since today is the eclipse and the full moon, we'd be chatting about that today. If you guys have any questions about the full moon, I'd be happy to answer them in my opinion. And I'm also going to share what's been coming up for me. But this full moon eclipse is a north node eclipse. So there is, and it's a collective north node eclipse, meaning it's hitting the collective consciousness and hopefully shifting us in a direction that is going to be better for all of us. There is a lot of energy going on with Pluto out of bounds, like giving the power to the people, and the people, it's not like a protesting energy, but the people demanding that things be changed. So we're feeling that energy of the full moon. Hi, Erin. Thank you. We're feeling that energy of the full moon and the eclipse as this massive need to change and to let things go that are not serving us. This can be hitting relationships, it can be hitting your health, it can be hitting your career. There's a lot of different directions that this could go, and depending on our own personal charts will depend on that massive swing in, like you seen when I first got on, someone was like, I feel great today. And another person was like, I feel so heavy. And it has to do with two things. One is the eclipse hitting directly where you live. And I'm not completely sure. I think it's in the eastern US. It's hitting like Africa, Australia, different areas like that, but also where it's hitting in your personal chart. So depending on where it's hitting in your personal chart will mean different things for different people. You could be completely on that wavelength of opening up and expansion and just changing life in a really good way, and you could be on that wavelength of having relationships break up, losing a job, moving homes. This is a big energy of transformational change. And it's not, when I say transformational change, I don't mean like something little. It's the big energy, the big life changes that are shifting us into that place of a different type of consciousness overall for humanity. So every year we have eclipses come in. We have these eclipse seasons. There's some at the beginning of the year around March. Usually we have some in June, and then this time of year as well. So the other planetary movements that are going on while the eclipse is happening gives it a uniqueness. And we can all see, most of humanity, I don't want to say all of us can see, because there's a lot of people out there, who just don't understand. And I guess I feel like that's what this eclipse may change for a lot of people, is that what I'm seeing is that there is this massive disconnect between compassion and understanding and openness and the people. It's like both sides feel like they're fighting for what's right, truly in their heart. And I was doing someone's hair this week. I'm a hairdresser. I only do hair one day a week, but this person who sat in my chair, she was going on about trans people, and I just was like, her and she knows we disagree politically, and I just stopped and I was just listening to her, and I was just like, you know what's sad is that humanity lacks empathy and compassion. It truly takes most humans to know someone that is trans, know someone that is gay, see an animal be killed. All these massive, it's like they have to see it in front of their face to make those changes, because they just don't understand. They can't, they're not empathetic enough or compassionate enough to just put themselves in somebody else's shoes. One. And then two is they're so stuck in this codependent narrative that has been running the planet for so long that they truly don't know what it means to be sovereign, to live and let live, and which is so often get a bad rap, that we're doing the devil's bidding and we don't even believe in the devil. All of these, like, we're satanic, we don't even believe in Satan. In Wicca, of course, and not all witches are Wiccan, but most solitary witches believe in these same laws that Wicca has adopted, and one of them is to do as you will as long as you do no harm. And so I take that I actually love that. That's something that drew me to the craft, because I always had this thing with animals and not wanting to harm them. And so collectively, I think there is this divide and this split between the people that are so open and understanding and willing to accept, and the only difference between us and the others who are, like, say, preaching against trans people, like this client my chair was doing, I just looked at her and stopped talking, because I was like, my arguing is not doing, like, any good. And I just listened to her, and I just said, you just lack empathy and understanding. If you knew someone, maybe that would change your opinion. And she said, maybe so. And that's sad to me, that we're so disconnected from the heart. And so I feel like with this full moon in Pisces, Pisces brings up themes of addiction, not only to, like, drugs and alcohol and substances like this, but also to things like pornography, food, exercise, all of these things, our phone, addictions to our phone, all of these things that are addictive. Something is going to happen for a lot of people on the planet that massively shifts their perspective at this time. And so when I'm thinking about how this is going to hit different areas, I really believe, as sad as it is like sometimes terrible things need to happen to open people's hearts, because they either have I hate to say they're just assholes, because I don't believe anyone's just an asshole. I believe that, hi Kayla, I believe that people have been so wounded that they have not had the opportunity, or they've been so wounded and so self-protected and guarded that they have not taken those opportunities to heal. So they are discriminating against other people, and they're using addictions and believing in all these false gods. The Christians are pointing the finger at everyone for doing all these things that actually they're doing. And I believe even in this full moon in Pisces eclipse that they may get a completely different perspective. And oftentimes, Uranus is right here, and Uranus is that planet of shock and change. And I believe that, we've had that off and on for years, that kind of like, what the hell just happened type of energy. And that's, I see that as a divine orchestration of whoever you call source, right? Maybe we're not all witches here. I call source the goddess, the divine mother, you can call source whatever you want, but you know, looking back throughout history, it's like, if all these humans are going to be incarnated on this planet, and you know, it's said that there was a golden age where humanity lived in peace, and then the Iron Age came and humanity began to be greedy and humble, or not humble, greedy and arrogant, and it just turned dark. And so it's like all of these planetary movements, because we're all energy. This human body is energy. Like, I started this live by clearing my energy, by clearing the energy of my phone. I'm constantly working with my own energy as a witch to keep myself at a certain frequency so that I can do the work that I came here to do on this planet. Blessed be Kayla, Haunted Parlor. And that's important, because, and all of us should be constantly working with our energy, but most of us don't even understand our energy field. And all of these planets, when I say it's a divine orchestration, that's just miraculous and so awe-inspiring to me when I think about the whole of it. It's like, how would Source change a planet where the society is so massively corrupt on a huge level and can't see themselves? And the reason they are so corrupt is because of the wounding that they've endured. And so I imagine myself as source of a planet, and I can look down and have this beautiful compassion and love for those that are the evilest people, because they are so damn wounded. They have been through unimaginable pain and heartache, and their ancestors have been through unimaginable pain and heartache. And then I have these other people who are pushing through the other side, who are trying to bring the greater good, but they aren't the tipping point yet, right? And it's like, I love them just as much for fighting through to get to be where they are. And it's like, how do I change all of this? And this is where you hear these stories in Christianity where God looks down on the earth and he's like, well, fuck, everybody is evil and corrupt, so I'm going to flood the world and kill them all. That is a patriarchal narrative. If I have like fear-based narrative that has continued to perpetuate through the ages. And so the Christians believe God will actually come down and kill everyone because you're corrupt and you're evil. And this is where I choose to see Source as this divine, feminine, unending love protectress. She's fierce. She can have that fierce energy. But how does she help the collective on a free will planet of all these souls that are in these human bodies that are so wounded? And she's witnessing all of this, and so she places the stars in the sky and the constellations and the planets, and she moves them in the sacred dance that pulls at humanity's energy to give them opportunity again and again. Hi, Marjorie. And as she is giving this sacred dance to humanity, it's giving all of us that same chance to keep ourselves guarded and protected, and to continue the old narrative of division and hate and deciding who is right and who is wrong and who is good and who is bad. Like, that narrative of judgment is one that has to leave. But also, you know, with this full moon being in Pisces, so that's how the eclipse and the full moon energy is working with us. It's giving us this sacred dance of energy. And when we surrender to that sacred dance, and we allow whatever is pulling at us to be what it is, without trying to show up as better than you are, more than you are, and just showing up as you are. Like, that is what humanity has to do. For a while I thought it was just me. I was raised in the Mormon church, and the Mormons are very known for like the image, right? The mother and the father, they both have dark hair, and all the children have dark hair. The mother and father are blonde and cowboy hats with all these blonde children, and they prance into church and through town, looking perfect and behaving perfect, and all of this, when it's all a show, because what's going on behind the scenes is not what you're seeing on the outside. And so it's been part of my life's work to allow myself to be whatever it is that I am. Even when I showed up into leadership, it was like, as I started teaching yoga class, it's like, if I'm having a bad day, then hey guys, guess what? I'm not feeling great today. We have to learn to be okay with that, because we're needing to find this balance in life where we are not the victim. And that's a huge theme of the Pisces full moon and the eclipse, is that, we are debilitating ourselves a lot of times by finding ourselves as the victim. And it's like we have to find a way to honor both the part of us that was victimized and the part of us that is rising, and taking those lessons from when you were victimized and using them to see your strengths in this life. So we truly believe we each have hard lessons, and those lessons replay with different masks, different people playing characters in the show of your life, but it's the same story. And so once we realize the thread that's the same, and we decide to overcome that, everything changes. However, it takes times like this, when the energy gets so high at an eclipse, that the things that you thought you had control of, you let go of, because you have no other choice, depending on how it hits your chart and where you live, right? It's going to be more for some and less for others. And the energy during eclipses is one of shadow exposure. So, on social media, we're seeing one of two things. We're seeing people saying, do not do anything at all. This is a scary time, like evil's coming out, and people are fear mongering. Or then you have these other people who are like, do whatever the heck you want. Do all these money spells, do all this spells and all that spells. And, for each of us individually, we need to decide what the energy feels like for us at eclipses and go with that. I feel at eclipses, not out of fear, but out of respect for the energy at play, and out of respect for whoever our source is, Divine Mother, Divine Father, Source, whatever you call it, universe, that out of respect for that, this time is a divine rearrangement. So for me, I always say it's a time where it's like, Goddess, take the wheel. Take the wheel of my life and turn the ship around. Get me going in the direction that I need to go. Place me on the highest timeline possible. I am ready. And when we even say that, it's not a guarantee that the chaotic energy is not going to come in, or the heartbreak isn't going to come in. And in fact, sometimes it comes in more, because you're inviting the highest level timeline. You've got to be at a consciousness that you can understand that. And sometimes it takes things breaking apart and falling apart, and sometimes the relationship was not meant to last. You're going to learn more by walking away and divorcing that person than you were to remain the same, to continue to fight it out with them. Everybody's path is different. Some of us, maybe you're separated and you come back together at this time. There's no way to say how it's going to hit each of us individually. It's just look at this moment as the divine has the steering wheel of your life, and it's turning completely turning things around to get you headed in a direction you didn't even know was going to make you happier than you could ever imagine. And during that time, okay, the divine's got the steering wheel, right? And it's turning the ship around and it's moving slowly. And then there's ego you, right? So your soul's up here at the head of the ship with the steering wheel, turning it, and the water's moving. Can you imagine yourself in the water? And then your ego self runs from the back of the ship to the front of the ship and is like, no, we're gonna die, I've got to protect you, and grabs the steering wheel and tries to pull it the other direction. This is what is happening at eclipses, is that you're meant to be turned around. Some things are meant to fall apart for other things to begin. And the spell work sometimes will be exactly like that ego self running in and saying like, I need to do abundance spells, when later down the road, the abundance is going to come naturally. That's not what you're supposed to be looking at right now. What you're supposed to be looking at right now is the higher good of where you are going right now. Hi, Kelly. And that's the energy of the eclipse, is this chaos energy, because the divine is trying to take you one way and our egos are so in self-protection mode that they're trying to grasp onto control in any way that they can. And then the earth, we have the magnitude of what is happening on the planet right now. There's earthquakes, there's floods, there's droughts. And the way I see this is we talk about humans, and we talk a lot about this in my retreats and stuff that I host, that and women's work that I do, that the body, it needs to shake to remove trauma. And I feel like that is what the earth is doing through these earthquakes, is that she's moving, she's doing what she needs to do. And we need to trust that, as scary as that is, and humanity is messing with that, really. Humanity is messing with storms, it's messing with everything. And that's where it gets scary, is because the earth knows what she needs to do to regulate herself, but humanity keeps getting in the way and trying to do things. So, we also need to remember at this time is that all humans are mirroring energetically what is going on above and below. So not only do we have the planets that are pulling at us to change, but the earth is responding as well. And so we can see that in the earth, we're having floods, we're having droughts, we are having earthquakes, right? We'll look at those three things: floods, droughts, and earthquakes. That means that some of us are flooding ourselves with water, and what we need is earth. We need to get our feet on the earth, our hands in the dirt. We need minerals. And then the other part of humanity is in a drought, and they need emotion. They need water. They need to allow the water to wash everything away. They need to let themselves cry. And so you can see when you look at the weather patterns like that they are a mirror of what is going on within humanity. So you have to look at yourself and say, okay, what side am I on here? And just the way people, I've been looking recently at water, because I can drink a ton of water and absorb no electrolytes because of some health issues I have. And so I'm constantly replacing electrolytes. And it's like, that's me as a person. I'm so deep, so emotional. I have so much water that I have to keep returning to the earth and returning to the earth. And that has to be a regular practice for me because of who I am energetically as a human. So what I'm encouraging you to do is to look at your body. Are you not drinking any water? Are you only drinking soda? Like, these are all mirrors for the emotional, energetic, collective frequency. And the earth shaking is the attempt to get us to release the deepest buried wounds within us, the ancestral wounds that need to come up, and not to get so fixated on what happened in the past, but to understand that just being born into these bodies is a lot. Even if we lived the perfect life, our nervous systems were still programmed by thousands of years of patriarchy and control. And so, at this time with the full moon in Pisces, I keep coming back to this, like, we need to look at the analogies that Source is giving us. We need to surrender to the energy that's here now. Yesterday, I spent a lot of time sleeping yesterday. I thought I was getting a cold. And this morning I woke up and my sore throat was gone. And right after I woke up this morning, I was up for a little bit. I ate. And then I was like, gosh, I'm so tired. My eyes are burning again. And so I fell back asleep on the couch. And it's like, that's the energy that the eclipse wants you to take. It wants you to surrender to what's here now. Allow your body just to surrender, to trust that is what is meant for you is going to happen. The work on the computer that I have to do, my altar is not changed from Mabon. There is a million things on my to-do list that I could have done this morning. I need to make a retreat schedule. And yet I was like, my eyes are burning. I'm going to go back to sleep on the couch right now until my life. And that's what I did. And that's what the eclipse wants us to do. So I'm not saying, a lot of people are like, when I tell them I don't do anything on an eclipse, they're like, you're missing out on this huge opportunity. The energy right now is so heightened. And I'm not saying that no one should utilize that energy. I'm saying you need to be a well-practiced enough witch to know that if you should be utilizing that energy or not. Now, maybe you want to go make moon water. Marjorie was, saying she's making moon water in the coven yesterday. If you want to do something, that is a great something to do. It's transformational water. Maybe use it in a release bath or shower. But give yourself that time to rest and surrender. I really feel like, not out of fear of the chaotic energy, but out of love and respect for your own body. Give yourself rest, give yourself love. And maybe go get a pedicure, go get a massage, take a walk in the forest. Let everything wait. It's gonna be there tomorrow. And that's, it's like, why now? Because I promise you, it appears as though there's witches out there that have been witching their entire life because they're all over social media and maybe their followings are large, but maybe they're not, they haven't been witching as long as you think they've been witching, and they haven't had enough years witching. Maybe they have great information they're sharing, but maybe they aren't really, well studied on astrology because they haven't had the years to experience it and have tried doing magic on those days and seen throughout the next 6 months how that energy was wonky and chaotic, and that's really what can happen is that, and it seems chaotic, but there's divine intervention there is what's happening. So it's, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of the people we're seeing online were not doing the things they're doing today. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't look to them because they haven't been doing that long. I'm saying our discernment is everything right now. And I feel like when we have an eclipse like this one, just with the other energies at play, that there is this surrender that is needed right now. We need to really be willing to dive deep, and that's what Pisces wants us to do. It wants us to go inward, and until we slow down and go inward, we're not going to meet the shadows that are there. You know, we're going to continue projecting those and playing the victim. And it's, you know, something that's come up for me recently is like, is how do I witness someone else's shadow arising and honor that in a really good way and not change the way that I am doing something, because we all have to go through those phases where we're projecting, and then we hit the point where we're like, oh my gosh, I realized I was playing the victim and I didn't know it. And the only way we can get to those moments is not by keeping ourselves busy. It's by standing in nature and staring up at the trees and letting all the noise clear out of us. You know, was it last weekend? Yeah, last weekend I didn't do my live, and I really needed these eclipses. They can hit us up to a month prior, and the closer we get to the eclipse, the more we feel it. And so last week I was really knowing, like, my body was really screaming at me. And so, you know, it was actually my husband's idea to go to Sedona. And at first I was like, and then I was like, you know what? I do want to float. Like, I need water. And so I went and floated in the muddy creek out there, and it was transformational for me just to be in that water floating. So maybe you can't get to a body of water to go float, but maybe you can go to a forest or park and lay in the grass and close your eyes and just let the light pour in. Keep your phone out of your hand. Maybe leave your phone at home. This is how you surrender to the divine. And, you know, a lot of times I find that if people aren't addicted to some substance like a drug, they don't realize the things that they are addicted to. And, you know, having social media be a business part of the work I do in the world, I really have to be aware of how I'm picking up my phone and how I'm leaving my phone in the other room. Even when I'm doing work on the computer, sometimes I'll completely leave my phone in the other room and go work on the computer. Even though I'm doing work on the computer, I'm not connected to 100 million different people. And, you know, the phone can be a huge addiction. Food can be a huge addiction. There's exercise, you know. I have become addicted to exercise. When I did my 30-day yoga challenge of hot yoga, I realized at a certain point, like after that, it was almost like I couldn't quit yogaing. And it was like I felt like I had to do it every day or something was wrong. And so I have a Pisces moon, so I can definitely, I'm aware, you know, I have to watch that, like, need to grab on to something. I just looked up and seen this beautiful picture on this altar I have. I'm going to show you guys this. This reminds me of the eclipse. And this picture's by Tara Ellis. I think I got this on Etsy years ago. This is what the full moon eclipse is wanting to have happen here. Do you see how I just like looked up at my altar and realized, like, this is what's happening right now. You see the moon, you see her body just completely surrendered and let go, and she's just going all the way to the bottom where the weeds are, right? And that's what caught my attention, was those weeds, because last week when I was in the water, I always have my husband right there when I'm floating, because I don't like water I can't see through. And usually you can see through the water at the creek, but there's been so many storms lately, it's like muddy, so I can't see the weeds and stuff. And so, like, even when we're at the ocean, I have him like hold on to my foot and just stand there and let me float. Or if I float too far, he'll grab my foot and pull me back. Well, I decided to stand up when he grabbed my foot once, and I went right down into a bunch of weeds, and I was like, and I like jumped out of the water and grabbed onto his back and just trying to like keep my feet out of those weeds. And so this is what, like, we need to surrender to the weeds is what I'm getting at. You need to let yourself go to the ick, that scares you. I don't know if any of you guys have that, where you don't like your feet to touch stuff underneath the water. Like, I even wear water shoes because I just have this thing about like, and so the eclipse is really asking you to go to those places that are uncomfortable for you, that give you the, like, go there, because that is where the most growth is going to happen. And the interesting thing is that we're going here collectively. So, and it's not, you know, any north node energy is outside our comfort zone. So there's the north node of the moon and the south node of the moon. The south node of the moon is your comfort zone. It's what you're comfortable with. It's what you know. The north node of the moon is where the most growth and expansion can happen for you, but it's also outside your comfort zone. And so this eclipse is highlighting just that. It's how you don't want to get your feet in the weeds in the water you can't see through because it scares the shit out of you. And really, I know this creek like the back of my hand. Like, I've been in that creek for so many years. I know there's nothing in that creek that's going to get me. What are those weeds going to do to me? But there's still that knee-jerk reaction, right? And that's what's happening. It's almost instinctual for me. Like, and that's what's happening at the full moon, is it's like this knee-jerk instinctual thing for you to be like, no, 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 and tell everyone, no, I'm just having a great full moon. The eclipse is not hitting me, when like everything in you is like, keep it up here, keep it high, keep it high, keep it up, keep it on the surface, keep it surface level. And that's when lightning strikes and you get struck down to the earth, or, you know, something massive happens so that it changes everything. So if this full moon, this eclipse, is hitting your chart at a certain degree, at its last degree, or, you know, some culmination point degree, you may have one of those life-shattering changes in your life that's going to make you want to run for the hills, but there's no option to run for the hills. You know, so you need to let go and face your fears. Sometimes letting go means facing your fears. So even, you know, floating in that water, not being able to see through it, for me, it is facing a fear, right? Because I don't like water I can't see through. Normally the creek water is completely clear and you can see through it, but it was completely orange in Sedona. It looked like, almost when it gets like that, it looks like a blood river in person because it's so orange, depending on, you know, the storm and how hard it hit. But, you know, I think it's a culmination of both facing your fears and surrendering, because sometimes to face our fear, we have to surrender. Sometimes the things that we are most afraid of is where we're going to have the most growth. So go to the depths, but you have to surrender and let your mind take you where it's going to take you. And that's the thing, you know, I think in yoga, I guess I'll just throw that on the ground. In yoga, one of the things that, the way that it transformed me so much, was at the end of class, they always gave us 5 minutes in Shavasana. And you're laying there with this music and you're so tired, because I would do hot yoga and I was so tired. There was I had no barriers left in me to hold anything down. So the thoughts that would come up, the flashes of imagery of childhood things, it was in those moments that I realized there was a lot more memories accessible to me than I knew there was. And I thought I had uncovered, you know, I've been down that road so many times, even during plant medicine, where I'm like, that was it. I uncovered everything I could uncover. And then outside of a plant medicine journey, you know, after my grandmother died, I started having dreams that I knew they were memories because they were memories, and I would wake up like screaming and like full like scream like somebody was killing me, my poor husband. And it was like, dang, like I thought I got to all of it. And that's the thing with humanity right now, is we have to accept that there's no end destination. That's how we have to live. That's how committed we have to be to our healing journey, is to know there is no arrival point. You're not going to get to the top of the mountain. And that's been a big lesson for me, because I can't tell you how many times I've gotten to the top of a mountain and been like, I'm here, and turned around and realized, oh, wait, there's another mountain to climb? Like, I thought I was to the top. There is no top. There is no destination. The destination is the journey. It is you continuing to be committed to allowing the worst of the worst to arise within you. And that's why we need to surround ourselves to the best of our abilities with like-minded community. You know, it's hard for someone like me who's a witch, and you know, the more I slid into that place of like, this is who I am, that the more solitary I became. The more healing I did, the less friends I had. And I've become so strong within myself that, you know, there are those moments where, you know, I'm like, I feel so lonely, you know, and why do I have to do this alone? And, you know, those moments, I'm not saying they don't hurt, but they're what birthed my desire to host retreats, I think, was because I would spend all my time at my altars, all my time on my yoga mat, and strengthening who I am, and I would not change that for the world. And then sometimes, you know, on New Year's Eve or a Friday night, I would be like, dang, you know, back in the day I would be out drunk, doing whatever I would do, having a good time with other people, probably causing more chaos in my life than I needed. And now I'm here alone with nothing to do on New Year's Eve, and I'm just sitting here with my husband, and we're falling asleep on the couch. And there were moments of feeling lonely, and I feel like if I didn't allow myself to have those moments of, wow, this sucks, like, I'm alone. I wish I could find a coven. You know, I wish I could find people who were like me. And, you know, I taught yoga classes. People were drawn to my yoga classes, but people weren't in the same place I was in, if that makes sense. And so it's like, I knew they were wanting the wisdom from me, but it wasn't like we could forge these relationships because we were in two completely different worlds. And oftentimes I still find myself in that place, but it's different now, because, you know, when everything crumbled and I stopped teaching yoga and I closed my boutique and I got turned around, and I always look back to a specific eclipse that I was sitting outside my house in the front yard, because that's where the sun, it was a solar eclipse, hit me directly. And I was like, okay, all my neighbors are going to see me, but I have to sit here because I can't see the sun from my backyard, and I wanted to see the sun. And everything has shifted since then. And so these eclipses, you know, we have a solar eclipse coming in 2 weeks. They can get you going towards something that, you know, when I say you never knew you always hoped for, like, my life now is that. And yours can be too. And that's why I started hosting retreats, was because I wanted to be around like-minded people committed to doing the healing work. And even in that journey, there's been lessons for me. It's not like everything's bliss and perfect, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, the healing work always comes up, life always happens, just like I told you when my grandmother died, like, I had no idea how that would rock my world. She was an old woman. Usually when somebody's very old, you have some peace around it, but it really rocked my foundation. And going to a church where things had happened to me, like, it just stirred everything up again. And so I'm not saying that by any means that I arrived anywhere, because I can tell you every year, 2020, 2021, 2022, I'm like, I arrived. So I'm never going to say I arrived again, because what I realize is for us, the reason we chose to be here now is because we are strong enough to keep meeting the challenges. We're clearing our DNA, we're clearing the energy, we're shifting the entire energetic field. That's why we can't stay in a place of rage, why we need to understand how shadow work works. We need to be willing to sit with the pain, to go to the depths and sit in the weeds in the bottom of the ocean where it gives us the ick, and put our feet down and say, I'm okay. It's just weeds. It's just weeds. And it's gonna be okay, because tomorrow's a new day, and there's something new coming for me. And I've found, I guess we're in Virgo season, and I was just talking to my coven yesterday about Virgo and Estrella and the deity, and how she has this endless hope in humanity. And I'm not a Virgo. I do have some strong Virgo placements, but I do have this endless hope for humanity. But that doesn't mean my lowest lows are not the lowest lows, depression, lying on the bathroom floor crying type of depression. I've just learned to pick myself up when I was done and keep going and keep seeing that possibility for a better future. Because we are all meant for more than what is happening right now. And like I started with, it's not giving up hope, I guess, that things can turn around. Even it sucks that for people to accept trans people, for people to accept gay people, for people to feel bad for what's happening in Gaza. They've got to be in Gaza. They've got to have a child that's gay. They've got to have a friend that's trans and never knew it. It is sad that that's the way humanity is. It's sad, but not all of us are that way. And so, we can't let ourselves get down in the dumps and be like, I've chosen to be a witch, poor me, now I have no friends. I mean, yeah, take those moments. Thank you, Marjorie. Take those moments and feel those feels, because your emotions, that's what humanity's afraid of. The emotions are the weeds. They're afraid of feeling the weeds beneath their feet in the bottom of the water. They're afraid of the fish that might touch them, that are more afraid of you than you are of them, honestly. There's a lot that needs to change on this planet, but it all begins with us. And the moments alone are, I feel like a lot of us witches are finding ourselves alone and needing to turn to things like retreats to bring that community in, because we need to spend that time alone to process whatever we're needing to process. And I have community now. For all those years I spent alone, all of a sudden one day my TikTok started growing, and I had all these people online, and then it was like, wow, I have all these followers online, but here I am again alone. And that's where you need to be like, okay, like the victim mindset of poor me, like, why isn't it going my way? Like, that hope. And, you know, for me, hope feels different than faith. You know, faith is knowing the sun will rise tomorrow because it's risen every other day. Hope is having hope that something will happen that you've never seen happen before. And, you know, knowing that you can bring into form whatever it is that your soul desires. But you're really here to heal. Like, that's why all of us are here now, is because our souls have this endurance in them. Even the weakest of souls are stronger than a lot of the other souls because they chose to come now at the bridge. I don't believe this is an easy time. Not that there's ever been an easy time for humanity, but change is difficult. And we all are here to change and to continue to believe in ourselves, in our sovereignty, in our magic, in our abilities, and to let all the old things go. And I've seen it happen for myself. You know, I have, through these retreats that I host, and you can see them on my page, you know, I've connected with so many people. I know if I'm having a bad day, I can reach out and reach out, and, you know, someone will be there. And I've created this online virtual community where we have a little app where it's just such a beautiful, safe little space for the women that want to use it, who are in my witch school or in my coven. And then, you know, it's funny because out of nowhere last year, I was blessed with the other half of my soul sister coming into my life, and we're hosting retreats together now. And it's like, you know, there is part of the journey I've accepted that is supposed to be me alone, because she lives in Australia and I live in the US. So it's like I found somebody who is like, we together can make anything happen. Everywhere we went, lights were flickering. It was magic. And I was like, why can't I have that here? But you know what? I realized we both have unique paths, and part of those paths, we need to be on our own. And I believe a lot of us solitary witches are in that place where we need that solitude to be able to continue to do the work, because it's a lot. And you know, sometimes I had someone recently ask me, like, I've already had my children, is it worth doing the work? It is worth doing the work. It's not just about the children you bear after you've healed your body, because the healing goes on until the day you die. I hope one day, I hope we are entering the next golden age. I hope there is a complete crumbling of the old. But it could be a while before that happens. And so the energy that we are continuing to anchor by continuing to show up for the healing work, by not being afraid to be alone, by facing our fears, by letting the addictions go. All of those addictions, all of the mental chatter, the mental masturbation that people do, it's like we have got to find a way to quiet the mind so that we can feel what is in this body. I cannot expect another to be next to me spiritually until able to understand my own power first. Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, there's so much happening at this eclipse, and a lot of it has to do with our internal processes, because it is in Pisces, and Pisces is the depths of the water. It's the final astrology sign that connects us to source. So, you know, it's like we get mixed up and we think like the more we transcend, we're going to meditate ourselves to this connection with source. But in my experience, like, yeah, being open is great. But until we come down and into the body with that same kind of openness, the same type of desire we do for the third eye awakening as spiritual people, if the more we desire and hunger to be able to clear the body, to clear this vessel, to be able to embody that wisdom, that's when your abilities awaken. That's when the magic happens. So, you know, the wounds, they are trapped energetically in your body, throughout your entire body, not even just your solar plexus. It's your entire body, all the way down to your root. And you know why it's all the way down to the root chakra? Is because these wounds are rooted in your ancestors, and my ancestors, and everyone's ancestors' fear of death. And not just fear of death, but fear of pain and suffering in death because of the way that you would be killed for being who you are. And that's what we are untangling right now. We are untangling that to know we are safe here, because you've got half the people screaming that you're not safe on the planet. God's going to damn us. God's going to flood the earth. He's going to earthquake us off. He's, you know, whatever it is that all these people of these old Christian belief systems are not understanding. It's like laughable. Right now, my page is with this influx of Christians and people that are laughing at the work I do as a witch, and, you know, Christians saying that we're going to hell. It goes in waves. Like, I'm so thankful for my online community, don't get me wrong, but the scammers and the people that hate and you know, they're coming on my page. I rebuke you in the name of the Lord. I rebuke this energy. And it's like, all you have to do is not go on witch talk, and you're not going to have to spend your time rebuking anything. Like, you're putting it in front of your face, and you're rebuking the very energy that could heal you. But humanity is so stuck in this fear-based thinking, like, you're gonna go to hell for practicing witchcraft. It's like, for owning our identity as witches, we're going to go to hell. Do you even, I don't believe in hell. Witches don't believe in hell. And it's like, these people that are coming on my page, they can't even wrap their mind around the fact that some people don't believe in Christian mythology because they're so programmed. And that's what I'm talking about. These programs, they live in our blood. They are informing our nervous system. So it takes the strongest of souls who have wounded egos that are just trying to protect their inner child. And those egos need to be loved. Like, hey, ego, you've done a great job protecting me. But higher self me now, we're going to start trusting higher self me. I promise I got me. Because we need to get to the child within us. We need to get to them. And we need to hold them. Thank you, Marjorie. We need to get to them because they are the ones who hold the keys to our healing. They hold the keys to the future because they are the invincible innocence that exists within us. They know our magic. They know our powers. Hi, Jessie. If you guys can, like the live. You know, I never say that enough, and then we never get a bunch of likes and stuff because I'm just like blabbling. And hit the like button if you haven't followed me. Please follow me. Oh goodness. Oh, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for liking the live. Every Sunday when I get to 100K likes, I cast a circle, which is kind of like a meditation for those of you who haven't been here. And it lifts you up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness until you go to sleep tonight. And then when you go to sleep, that circle opens. It's never broken. And so during the week, you begin to integrate everything that you absorbed on this day. So we'll do that in a bit as soon as the likes hit 100K. And thank you for being here, you guys. Thank you for being part of the community. Thank you for giving me this outlet to share my wisdom. And if you guys didn't know, I have a retreat in Salem next year that we just launched. So if you, yeah, we did change our mind about Salem. We talked to the town official that actually was discriminating against us in Salem. It was an hour-and-a-half discussion, and she admitted she was discriminating against us. And we were able to completely turn things around. You know, for me, that's the best case scenario, because, you know, it's one thing to go out and fight for something, but to create a change in someone's heart that could change an entire area is huge. And this person runs a lot of the stuff in Salem, and so we really feel like we did a good thing there. And at the very end of our phone call with her, she actually ended up, and this is a woman who was like, your hats, your dresses, like she was awful to us, in Salem of all places. And she ended up offering both Stella and I, who I host the retreat with, they are thinking about doing a panel of modern witches, and she invited us to be on that panel if that happens. And then she gave us the opportunity to hold a private event in the witch house for our retreat, if we decided to hold another retreat there. And so we thought, wow, what are the chances? Nevaeh, you got your ticket for Salem. Yes. We've already sold 2 spaces, maybe 3, because I was talking to someone last night who was supposed to maybe purchase this morning. So if you want that, you may go reserve that space, because they're already selling really quick. But I know whoever's coming to this one, I'm not sure what we're going to do in the witch house yet. It's going to be a private event. We're working with the person who runs the witch house so that everything is in accordance with their rules, because it is a historic home. But I feel there's a reason we're being called back there. And there's an interesting energy in Salem where you would think from the outside looking in, it looks like they celebrate the witch, but there's still a lot of not true celebration of the witch, and actual discrimination of the witch. And even the witches that live there seem to be pitted against one another rather than being willing to heal the sister wound. And, you know, what was interesting to me was that this woman that runs everything, that initially discriminated against us, it broke her heart to think that she discriminated against women because she's all about women's rights, but yet she did it. She was discriminating, and she admitted she was, but that's shadow work, right? That's shadow work. It's being like, yeah, I'm a feminist, and then finding yourself like, wait, am I a feminist? Like, am I for women's rights when all I do is fight people and I'm not actually healing anything? And, you know, so I feel like the way she was able to acknowledge, like, I was judging you. And so it came out the other end really beautiful. But we're really excited to go back to Salem because, you know, we had some very powerful ceremonies there, and I believe they'll be more powerful because this will be our second go around. That was our first try in Salem, you know, learning new areas, staying at a new place, working out food, etc. If anybody's watching that is in Salem that can help us with food at different restaurants, give me a call. We're working on that right now. That was one of the biggest challenges was food, because where we stay at the coach house doesn't have a kitchen. So we're going to be going out for all our meals at this retreat. But we're going to do those ceremonies again. We won't be drawing down the moon because it won't be a full moon, but we're going to do a beach ceremony. I can say for myself, the beach ceremony to me felt the most powerful. We're, drawing down the moon. and we were doing it when it was still light because we couldn't have been on the beach when it was dark, and that's where we wanted to be. But ultimately, the drawing down the moon is drawing the energy of the goddess. The moon goddess, yes, but who is the moon goddess? She's a representation of the Divine Mother. So you're actually drawing down the energy of the Divine Mother into your body and into your wand, and on the sand next to the water, that massive amount of water. For me, it felt really huge, and I'm really excited to be able to go do it again. And so we just launched that. It's going to be in May of next year. So, oh, Jessie was there, Gingy was there. So yeah, we actually, I have Practical Magic Retreat that's in October that I'm getting ready for right now, which is a totally different vibe than Salem. We go to the cemetery. Yeah, it's not a tour around to see historical sites. We spend the entire time immersed in ritual and ceremony. We walk over to the ceremony because it's Samhain and we're honoring the ancestors, and I love that cemetery. And at the end of that retreat, we are going to go over to some vortex spots, but the majority of that retreat is spent at the retreat house, connecting, doing spell work, meditation, plant spirit. We do we have a red tent ceremony. We do a ritual of the Sphinx ceremony. It's just, yeah, totally different vibe there, but all of the retreats I host are they're so fun. They're like my inner child, and more the inner teen part of my inner child makes her so happy because, I used to dream of doing this stuff, and just, I know my child self, it would be so happy about me sitting here in this witch hat. And I feel like that's the goal of one of the goals in my life, is to make my inner child happy with who I've become. And when I look back at what she was interested in and the magic she knew existed within me, she's really happy. I do believe, I've never had the opportunity to write a book yet. I really want to write a book because my inner child used to write little books, and I want to do that one day. And so I ask you on this full moon eclipse, like, what would little you look at grown-up you and say, like, what could you do with your life that would make little you say, I want to grow up and be her? That's something we should all be striving for, because I feel like for so long we've pushed that child self within us down, that we lost the magic. We lost the compassion, we lost the empathy, and it's been gone for thousands of years because we had to push that down to survive on this planet. But really, like, I look at the world, and I'm sure other people do this as well, and think, like, we're so far advanced as a society. Like, how can we be so stupid? How can these things be happening at the hands of a few when there's more of us that can say no? It's like we've got to figure out that we as a community, as communities, have more power than we realize. And war and destruction and discrimination is not going to heal anything. People are going to argue all day long about what is the change and what are we supposed to do. And there's, does marching do anything? I don't know. What does do something? And that's why, and it's shadow work. And that's why You know, I am constantly telling people and preaching to my children and, you know, go to therapy, get an energy healer, continue to do the work. It's not a one and done. Continue to show up for yourself, continue to cry for yourself, continue to dig to the depths of your soul to get to that child within you. Because when you're wondering what your soul's purpose is and you're tapping to get there, to wake up your heart, and you're doing this and that to get there, and it's like you gotta be willing to go into the darkness, to get your feet in the weeds in the creek, go to the places that scare you. That's what you've got to be able to do, because that's where the magic is. And I just think if each one of us were to do the healing work and come out the other side individually, we each become softer in some ways and stronger in other ways. We're more rooted in what we believe in, what we know we believe in. And that's what Pisces is about too. It's not about, like, Sagittarius is about understanding, right? And Gemini is about learning. But Pisces at the end of the zodiac is like, I believe. So what is it that you believe? What is changing for you right now under this eclipse that is like anchoring in what you believe? And how are you going to make these choices to reflect that becoming of what you believe? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about source? What do you believe about the world around you? What do you believe you are capable of? Because, you know, intent, yes, is at the root of a lot of your magic, but it's right side by side with what you believe and your emotions around what you believe. And that's how you create magic. Like, it's not about doing the spells every single day. It's about channeling that energy, but you can't access that energy if you're busy stuffing it all down because you're so wounded from what happened to you as a child or a teenager, or in your first marriage or your second marriage, or, you know, we all have so much stuff. And sometimes, you know, people will be like, I've never, you know, my mom's one of these. My life was perfect. That's what she says. My life was perfect. Nothing was ever wrong. But I do remember a time when she told me things where it wasn't perfect is the thing. But she is one of those that's like, everything is perfect in a way that everything is perfect is protecting her from accessing her deepest pains, her core wounds. So we're in, you know, Virgo season, and Virgos can be perfectionists. And during this season, let that need for perfection go. Let it be messy. Let the messy be there. Because the messy is, you know, have you ever heard of that chaos? That divine chaos that actually turns into something in the dark womb. That's what, oh my gosh, I just seen that, Jillian. Thank you. Yes, we reached 100K. It is within the chaos of the eclipse season that something new begins. It is within the chaos that something new is born. So every eclipse is this process of rebirth. This opportunity to transform your life in some way, shape, or form. So thank you guys for 100K likes, and Chaos is your middle name. You know, there's a part of you that's really wanting to be reborn right now, and we are in it. You know, I see so many people that are so committed to their growth and their shadow work, and I'm just in awe of them. And I choose to put my focus on all the people that are willing to do that, to be those people, because that's what's changing the planet. Yes, just like you, Gingy, I'm talking to you. and Marjorie and all those sisters that are in my witch school, that I see you just keep showing up again and again, and being willing to take your own journey and then to support others in that journey. And you know, there is hope, you guys. I know things seem bleak and dark sometimes, but there is hope. And yeah, if you didn't know, I have witch school courses, so I hope you'll go check those out. They're all women, and I also host retreats. And the thing is I don't believe in hell, whatever your name is. We already went over that. It's like, why do you take your time coming over here? Like, Hel was a goddess. I love her. If you send me to her, I would be much happier than to be sent to the God of the Christians' Bible. And on that note, you know, something this full moon's brought in for me, and to be complete honest, I have not slept a night through for weeks. I've been waking up in the night. It's just been making me feel terrible. Last night, for whatever reason, I slept the whole night through. And I woke up this morning and was like, wow, I cannot believe I slept the night through last night. And then I went back to sleep this morning. But in these nights leading up to last night, something that's been keeping me awake at night is this thought that I cannot stop thinking about: who were the witches before? Because there's so much confusion around who is a witch, what is a witch. And it just keeps bringing me back to this, like, the oldest written record of a witch we have is biblical. It is biblical. It is the Witch of Endor, which we know the Bible was manipulated. So the first witch we have an example of is in the Bible. And I can't help but sit and think, did they write that in? Was there nothing about witches until they wrote that in? Or were they witches and they just demonized them? And I do think there were those referred to as witches, but they have destroyed our history. They've destroyed our history so much that we have nothing but word of mouth. We are as witches trying to figure out, like, we have this guideline of Wicca, but Wicca was created in the 1950s. It's like, I know other leaders and teachers who've decided they aren't identifying as witches because there's no history there, like there would be for Buddhism, or even the Native Americans have been able to hang on to their history to where, you know, they know their language, they know their practices. The witches are fighting each other, trying to decide what is a practice, what isn't. And who was a witch? You know, what is the difference between pagan folklore and a witch's magic? And this has been what's keeping me up at night, oddly. And I'm like spiraling through all these things I've read over the years. And it's, you know, I guess this is where, you know, I know what I believe, but it's like you can't prove it, you know? And it's sad. It's like, how do I prove that there was a person that was a witch? These people that they referred to as witches, and it wasn't all the herbalist. It wasn't all the healers. It wasn't all, because in paganism, and when you look at paganism, it's different than it is in the modern days. You look at paganism as they looked at it. In the days of old, paganism referred to a period of time before the conversion of pagan Europe. So there's like before the pagan conversion and after the pagan conversion. And so there's these pagan ways of living that are intertwined, inseparable from the ways of the witch. But because there's no history of the witch, and they started finger pointing the witch as being everyone and everything, even cats and dogs and spirits in jars, and so it's like the only wisdom we can lean on is channeled wisdom. And as we're leaving the day and age of the guru, where we're looking to leaders to give us information and wisdom, it's like I'm channeling this information for myself. I know, the one thing when I look at that biblical story of the Witch of Endor is that she used her prophetic abilities, her psychic abilities, her oracular abilities. I do believe there were these people that were pagan, so they practiced all those ways that the pagans did, like corn dollies and different, following the seasons of the year, because that's how they sustained life. And it's like, to some extent, like I say, you can't be Christian and a witch, because witches predate Christianity, which we do. All witches to some extent are practicing paganism, because we have no clear definition between what is pagan and what is witchcraft. And we have these different people, Gardnerian, or and I'm not going to go down that road, but a lot of them are men. And I guess they had to be men to carry forth that wisdom, because women would be killed as witches, right? So it's just, as we're scrolling, there's so many people out there, people that I follow that I really like. I don't believe everything everybody says that I follow, but everybody's trying to say, here's the right way. Here's the right way. And it's like, who's to say what is the right way? Who's to say you're doing it wrong? When the oldest record we have of stuff for witchcraft is from the 50s. And, it's a really, we've got to be open to change. We've got to be open to digging deeper. We've got to be open to trusting ourselves and those threads of consciousness that are in us, because I feel like when we are awake in the middle of the night, or we're laying in the forest and those thoughts pop in our head, there's a reason for it. And that's where I am right now. That's what I've been exploring, because it's something I see on social media is the witch talk is very toxic, because they're pitting against each other for the limelight. Every witch wants to be the witch. But what if we all allowed each other to witch the way we wanted to witch? And we realized there were several different traditions, because paganism is just referring to the old ways of living life. And so, there's many different ways that you can do something. It doesn't make someone's way right and someone's ways wrong, but there has to be a foundation. And the foundation, it's like, I want the foundation to be deeper than Wicca. And for me, that foundation goes all the way back to ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, but yet we don't have any fact. History saved. So, this is where I've been spiraling in my brain in the middle of the night. So I leave those thoughts with you, so that hopefully you can start thinking about these things and what they mean to you. And, hopefully we stop looking for everyone to be right or wrong, and start trusting our own discernment. And when you scroll past something, like feeling into your own being and saying, is this truth for me? Does this feel like truth? Does this feel like right to me? And if it's like thought-provoking and it's pulling you, but then another side of you is like, something's off here. You never know, there may be something there for you to learn. There's movements I've been a part of and learned a massive amount from. As far as circle leadership goes, is one, for example, that I chose to walk away from, because I realized it was going a direction I wasn't wanting to go. But I learned so much by going down that road. So don't ever feel like, the road you choose is not going to take you somewhere. It's going to take you through the wrong place, because there's something to learn from every path that you go down, even if in the end you say, this is not for me and I'm going to walk away. And that's what's happening right now, right? Under this full moon, you're walking away. You're letting something go. You're freeing yourself from what you didn't realize. Like you didn't realize you had shackles around your ankles and your wrists until someone unlocked them and took them off of you. And that is what can happen during these moons, right? And, if you're not having those life-shattering, like, oh my gosh, moments, because not all of us are going to have those, right? At this time, some of us will, and some of us won't. So for the rest of us that aren't having these massive shifts, pay attention to those thought-provoking things, the things that have been spiraling beneath the surface that you keep thinking about that wake you up at night, or when you're driving down the road and you're just driving and all of a sudden something pops in your head. Like there's things that you're supposed to be processing right now, opening up to, that is going to take you down a new road and expand your consciousness more around what your true origins are and who your source is. It's about acknowledging when you go to pick up that cookie and then another cookie and another cookie, that there's a feeling that you're trying to suppress by continuing to eat the cookie. So when you put the cookie down and say, what is it I'm feeling right now that makes me want to pick up that cookie and eat it? That makes me want to grab that beer, that makes me want to run to Starbucks and get a coffee, that makes me want to pick up the phone. When I want to pick up the phone or get a coffee or whatever it is that I'm addicted to, when I don't do it, what is the feeling I'm left sitting with? And there's a lot there. And there's a lot there for a lot of us. So it's not always just the earth-shattering, chaotic moments. It's about stepping outside of the chaos that you don't realize you're in because you've become acclimated to being in the chaos. So people are like, it's chaotic during the eclipse, and you're like, what? It's chaos? I don't feel like it's chaos. And that's because you have been living in chaos for so long, you don't know how to stop and be calm and be still. So really push yourself to still yourself and check in with what's there. I can think of so many ways that, there were times, there was a moment, like I had to go through a journey of losing quite a significant amount of weight, about 100 pounds of weight. And one of the profound moments I had in that weight loss journey, which it wasn't all in 1 year like a lot of people do. It was like over a period of five years or so. But there was one day I had gone to Taco Bell, and I was sitting in the parking lot at the bank, and I had a, what I would say was an eating disorder that I didn't know I had. But people think an eating disorder is not eating, but it can be overeating. And I was sitting in this parking lot waiting to go inside, and I was literally taking bites of this burrito and chewing it up and spitting it back in the bag so I didn't have to swallow the calories, because I was trying to lose weight, but I couldn't. I was like dying inside to eat. And so this is what I was doing. And I stopped myself all of a sudden and was like, what are you doing? Like, it just like, I heard it in my brain, like inside me, but outside of me, like, what are you doing? And, it's funny, this morning my husband made cinnamon rolls, and I was sitting there and he ate 3 cinnamon rolls and I was still eating 1. And I was like, do you even enjoy your food because you eat it so fast? And he's like, it's just so good, I gotta eat it. And I'm like, but then you're done and you're not still enjoying it. And he's like, but you look so bored when you're sitting there taking so long to eat. And that popped in my head when I was sitting in that parking lot at that bank, chewing that food up and spitting it in the bag, because I was trying so hard to push down all of the emotions and feelings that I I didn't feel I was strong enough to deal with. And those profound moments where I realized like what I was doing, like it's like a light bulb goes off. Those are the kind of moments that come in during eclipses, that you realize you've been doing something completely toxic that you've never acknowledged is toxic, that maybe you're only aware of. You know, my husband, nobody knew I did that. What a, you know, and so it's like those moments you become aware of yourself and you stop and you say, what am I feeling right now? And it was just, you know, in that moment, everything was too much. Everything was too much. And so I just sat there and cried in my car for the longest time. It was like, I realized in that moment that I was taking a moment alone because my life was so chaotic that the only time alone I had was in the parking lot at the bank, to be away where there was no kids in the car, no husband, no nobody. And at that point I was trying not, you know, like to lean on drinking on the weekends. And so it's like you shift one addiction to another sometimes until you become aware that there's something you don't want to feel. And the more you eat, the more you pick up your phone, the more you go get that drink, you're doing something that's preventing you from feeling those feelings. And feeling the feelings is the healing. So sometimes all you need to do is sit there and cry. And Pisces, you know, Pisces is the crier of the zodiac. So if you feel like crying and you don't know why you feel like crying, cry. It's okay. Like, you don't have to know why you're crying. You've got thousands of generations of women and men and children that are living in your veins that never got a chance to cry, that never got a chance to feel their pain. And so you're the one who said, I'm strong enough to feel not only what I've been through, but whatever everyone that lives through me ever felt that they did not get to experience. So cry, because for this eclipse, maybe that's all that's needed, is for you to let yourself cry. Cry, 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 unapologetically, unshamefully. Cry your fucking eyes out, because every tear is activating hormones in your body that is saying, I am safe, I am okay. And those hormones are re-regulating your nervous system to trust that you don't have to live in that state of chaos that I was telling you. A lot of us don't even realize that it's chaotic because we live in that chaos so much. So, you know, I lived in so much chaos for so much of my life. And now my kids, everyone makes fun of me because you come by my house in the middle of the week, the TV is never on. I usually don't even have the music on. I am very often in the silence of my own home because I have learned to love the sound of my own inner voice, of my own inner silence, of the sounds of the neighborhood that I go unnoticed when the TV is playing in the background and shutting everything out. So, you know, I do, sometimes I'll play the music when I'm cooking dinner. I watch TV at night, but during the days, I let it be quiet because it's the only way I can keep being me. So surrender to those things, whatever they are for you, even if everyone makes fun of you for it. I've got 3 fire sign children and I'm a water sign. So I've got my children who are all fire signs, and then even one of my stepdaughters is a fire sign. The other stepdaughter is a water sign. So I do have one stepdaughter, bonus daughter I should call him, who's a water sign like me. And then my husband who's air. So they feed off each other all the time. And then here I am, the water, sitting in the background, and they're always making fun of me. But I'm okay with who I am. You know, they can make fun of me all they want. I don't take offense to it. I am just sitting back witnessing it a lot of times. But, you know, I think it's that allowing myself to be that deep, even if the world isn't, allows me to reach those deepest parts of you and see those deepest parts of those that I work with. So don't deny yourself being that deep if you are. You know, spiritual Pisces, I know you were commenting on here, like, let yourself be who you are. All right, so we're well over 100,000. Thank you, Heidi. If you guys have not followed me, thank you, Gingy and Marjorie, for moderating. Anyone else who's on here moderating, I missed you guys last week, but I did really need that time to float in the water. Thank you, Marjorie. And I just want you guys to know, like, how grateful I am that I can be here on TikTok doing this, that you're part of a community that is interested in what I have to share and what I have to say. And I hope that it's making a difference in a positive way in your life, because you being here is making a huge impact on my life. And, you know, I told you I'm kind of that solitary witch 90% of the time. So coming here on Sunday and talking to you guys, even though I can't address every comment when I'm channeling and flowing through things, you make me feel not alone, and you bring me that sense of community that I spent so many years longing for, you know, when I was witching in my backyard by myself and keeping that part of myself hidden. Calling myself witchy until I could show up today and be like, I'm a witch and you should say it out loud with me too. Thank you, Betty Jo. And hi from Sydney, Australia. You guys, we're gonna cast a circle. If you want to be a part of this, we are gonna do this kind of like a meditation. So I want you to be either sitting in a chair where your seat is nice and rooted and you're tall from your sit bones all the way to your crown, or if you're lying down, you're lying on your back, like with all the channels straight, not like curled in a ball, open. And what I do is cast a circle, similar to the way you would cast a circle to do spell work inside of, but this is an energetic circle, and this energetic circle is meant for protection and uplifting your consciousness level. I do this every Sunday, and we cast this circle in a way that it is a collective circle casting. So it is whoever is, you know, saying out loud in your own home or wherever you're at, or typing in the chat, thank you, yes, I accept, I receive, I am open to receive, whatever you want to put in the chat or say out loud is you're accepting that this is for you. And then you just will sit and close your eyes. When I tell you to breathe, you're going to breathe with me. When I say bless us as we call your name and I say a deity's name, I invite you to say that deity's name out loud with me. What that is doing is creating a circle of energies around you from these empowering deities that will stay with you. This circle will move with you until you lay your head to rest tonight. The circle will then be open. It will not be broken. Your circle is for you sovereignly, and we're doing it collectively. So the circle is cast on a much larger thread, but for us each individually in our sovereign way. And I lift that circle up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness, so you can be in this state of flow until you go to sleep, where you're in this higher state of consciousness, where you can accept knowledge and wisdom and aha moments that maybe you wouldn't have been able to accept otherwise. So, I invite you to find a nice quiet place. Maybe if you have some headphones, put them on, close your eyes. This will take about 15 minutes. And I invite you to say again, I accept, I receive, I claim this, whatever you want to put. I'm gonna turn my air conditioner on and get a drink of water, because whenever I'm channeling, I get hot, and I've been having these little hot flashes the whole time I've been talking. So I'm gonna do that. Can you guys hear the music in the background? Oh, good. Okay. Thank you, Gingy. I don't know why I call you Gingy on here. Thank you, Betty Jo. All right, everyone. So we're going to be casting a circle for those of you who are new, hopping on. If you want to be a part of it, just close your eyes, lie down, sit up. Just allow the chat to continue to move. Don't worry about anybody saying inappropriate things. Just be in your own energy. Hearing the music. Keeping your lips sealed. Take a nice, long, slow inhale through your nose. Feeling the breath of life enter every part of your body until you feel like you can't take one more sip of air, and then soften into this feeling without exhaling. Hold your breath and then just soften your body. Take in one more sip of air. Part your lips and audibly exhale. Press all the air out of your body using the strength of your abdominal muscles, and then seal your lips and slowly inhale. Feel the air move through your nose, through your throat, deep into your belly. Bring the air with your awareness all the way to the tips of your toes and the tips of your finger. Take in 3 more sips of air. Soften the shoulders, soften the sit bones. Part your lips, audibly let go. Again, squeezing the belly muscles to expel all the last bits of stagnant energy. And then when you're empty, stay there for 3, 2, 1. Now breathe in. A little bit quicker, in through the nose, fill the whole body up. Open your mouth, let go. Allow your body to become heavy. Feeling your fingertips and your toes, maybe wiggling them, dropping your shoulders, relaxing your jaw, letting your eyes sink heavy into your head. As I call forth unending concentric circles of light to surround each and every one of us now at our sovereign command. These pulsating, unending circles of light surround each of us with a unique color and vibrational frequency. We find ourselves in the center of these sacred circles, and you may begin to feel your body spiraling. Maybe you're shifting right and left, rocking like a boat, or maybe you're spiraling slowly around within your head, following those circles of light. Noticing the color without questioning what they mean, just becoming aware and curious, seeing their beauty, feeling yourself vibrating the same frequency as the spiraling light that moves around you now. Taking in another deep breath of air to acclimate yourself to this frequency, in through the nose, out through the nose. As I call forth the guardians of the watchtowers of the north, south, east, and west, I invoke your presence to watch over, to witness, and protect this sacred circle being cast across mountains and deserts, oceans, valleys, plains, countries, cities, the spiraling lights, and your presence connect us through this unified thread, collective consciousness and soul family, rising together but individually as sovereign individuals. Guardian of the North, keeper of Earth, I invoke the element and the spirits of Earth. Call forth the keeper of the crossroads, the keeper of the flame, the torches of light in the darkness, the keeper of light in the underworld, she who guides us down, 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 and holds the keys. Bless us as we call your name. Hecate, Hecate, Hecate. Guardian of the Northeast, keeper of the rising sun, she who waits at the sacred wells of healing waters, offering her light in pails of water, glass jugs and jars of water that pour upon our skin, washing away the energies and the frequencies that bind us. Bless us as we call your name. Bridget, Bridget, Bridget. Guardian of the East, keeper of air, I invoke the elements, the spirits of air. I invoke the presence of she of 10,000 spells, she of 10,000 names, shapeshifter of shapeshifters, mother of old, goddess, passion and desire, intellect and wisdom of the wings that energetically sprout forth from each of our spines as we awaken holy and divine. Bless us as we call your name. Isis, Isis, Isis. Guardian of the Southeast, keeper of sovereignty, keeper of the quiet hums and whispers of the throats of the feminine, she who awakens the unspoken voices of all our ancestors living through our blood. She, by her very frequency and divine presence alone, attracts the birds from afar. The sounds of their flapping wings and their song that they sing are her song, your song. There's a song longing to come from each of our throats. This song comes from deep within our hearts, and deep within our bloods. This song is the song of our grandmothers and our grandmothers' grandmothers. So if you feel like humming the song now, do so. And bless us as we call your name. Rhiannon, Rhiannon, Rhiannon. Guardian of the South, keeper of fire, I invoke the elements and the spirits of fire. I invoke the presence of Queen of the Fae, she who knows love is the way. All aspects of love are born within her wholeness. The righteous rage, the divine wholeness within the light, with the deepest, darkest cries of destruction. We honor with you the transformational journey of the fire. Bless us as we call your name, Anya, Anya, Anya. Guardian of the Southwest, keeper of mysteries, she who's walked her wisdom channeled through the aching hearts and the silenced voices in the dark of nights, passed from granddaughter to daughter, to grandmother to granddaughter, through sister to sister, written on papers, hidden in the deserts, awakened only in the hearts. She who has walked the same path as the witch. Bless us as we call your name, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. Guardian of the West, keeper of water, I invoke the elements and the spirits of water, keeper of the cauldron of alchemy, the alchemization of all things in this life. We were never meant to stay the same. She who holds the child within us in the darkness, cradling her in the recesses of our mind. Show us now the child within each one of us, cradled in the arms of this divine mother aspect, looking into the eyes of yourself now, seeing your purity, your innocence, seeing the magic in those little eyes, knowing that you've always been held, always been cared for by this aspect. It's connected to you and represented through this deity. Bless us as we call your name, Caradwin, Caradwin, Caradwin. Guardian of the Northeast, weaver of our sacred circle, Queen of the witches, Queen of the oppressed, giver of gifts, she who awakens the heart of witches, the heart of humanity, to rise from the oppression that we have faced for thousands of years. Daughter of the moon goddess, bless us as we call your name, Aradia, Aradia, Aradia. From beneath us, feel the loving Earth Mother rise up to support you. As your entire body sinks into her embrace, trusting that this physical body is hers and is gifted to you as a temple for this time, gifted to your soul. You are one with her. Loving Earth Mother, rise to support. We call forth the ancestors, that walk with us in a good way, the ancestors that walked the land that each of us reside on now, and offer our support and love and respect and honor. We call forth the Fae, the elementals, the gnomes, the guardians of the earth keepers. From above us, we call forth the star brothers and sisters, the keepers of the stars. We call forth every constellation, every planet, every star, every fractal of light. We call forth and open ourselves to, and ask you to witness over this sacred circle and pour your wisdom into us. Bringing your hands to heart center, left hand on the heart, right hand over the heart. And as you take a deep breath, we call forth the I am presence individually of every person who is receiving this sacred circle casting today. We call forth their spirit guides sovereignly to support their journey moving forward. And as we do this, we lift this circle up, up, up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness where divine knowing and miracles take place, and ask that this level of consciousness remain open until each and every one of us lie our heads down to rest. And as we individually lie our heads down to rest, the circle will be open but never broken. And as the sacred circle opens, it paves pathway for alchemization and integration of what we learned in this space today from our time in this full moon eclipse energy and sacred circle that we collectively cast for the highest and best good of all. This circle is now sealed. It is done, it is done, it is done, and so it is. Blessed be. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Gently wiggling your fingers and your toes, taking another deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Shifting and moving your body in any way that feels right to awaken yourself as you take in another deep breath of air. Inhale. At the top of the inhale, feel the body expanded. Before you exhale, begin to flutter your eyes open and continue to flutter them open as you exhale. Bringing yourself back into this time and space, here and now, in this sacred circle where everything feels different. Thank you. When you feel ready, I invite you to share anything in the chat that you wish to share, anything you witnessed, colors of light, deities that showed up for you clearly. You are very welcome. Thank you all for being here and taking part in that casting of our sacred circle. You know, I believe by casting this, thank you, light pink, casting a circle in this way. Hi Andreas, thank you, and Betty Jo, colorful purple. Casting a circle in this way shows the collective and anyone that comes across this that what witches do. You know, we all cast our circles in a unique and different way. And you'll often hear people saying casting a circle is evil, and it's not evil. It is the most beautiful form of coming back to center, back to your heart, back to your soul. And you are literally invoking, with the way that I cast this circle, you're invoking those archetypes of deities around you to protect you and support your journey. So for me, I cast a circle almost like some say a prayer in their head quietly. I cast my circle that way every morning and every night that I can. And this is my highest form of protection. It's something that I teach in my practical magic courses and in Way of the Witch. And I do this at all of my retreats to open up the retreats. You saw a red dirt road, Christina. That's beautiful. Maybe you're supposed to go to Sedona. You know, I have a video, Sugar Life, about why only women. And if you have to ask the question, why only women, I feel like you must, I don't know, I don't want to have any judgment here, but it is no surprise that women live with a lot of different threats in our life and abuses than men do. And we need to come together in a safe space together to not only heal the wounds that are within ourselves from our own lived experience with other women, but to heal the wounds that were oftentimes, most often, inflicted by other men. And so we cannot have other men to create that force of energy for healing to take place. So we come together for 5 days as women and sisters to heal those wounds that feel unhealable with the support of other women. We need these safe spaces alone. And I would hope, and there are, I know many male witches out there who support us, and they've come in my comments and they've cheered us on for meeting together alone as women. And then on the opposite side, I have men who come in and are like, men are witches too and want to beat us down. And honestly, I don't care if you have something against women meeting alone, but it is needed for the healing that is required. Thank you for the gifts. It is needed. The space alone, not only to heal the sister wound, to learn to trust other women, but to be able to share in a way that feels supportive and process in a space that feels supportive, that can only be held by other women. Because unfortunately, us women have to live in a world where we don't know who we're safe or not, where we're safe or not. We have to lock our doors when we get back in the car. Thank you. We have to live in a different way than men do. We can't walk down the streets alone. You know, if someone compliments us, we have to worry if they're going to follow us, if they're going to stalk us. So, yeah, it's, you know, if you think for a few seconds before you ask that question, why only women? But I also have a video about why only women if you want to go back and find it on my page. But my service to the goddess as a priestess and as a witch is to serve women in their healing in women-only spaces. This doesn't mean that we are anti-men or anything. Thank you, Sapphire. Thank you all for being here to participate in this casting of the circle today. And for those of you who were with me for the whole 2 hours, I invite you, if you are drawn to do a retreat for me, we've already, with me, not for me, with me, we have launched the Salem retreat for next year, which will happen in May. We have payment plans, and I invite you to go sign up because the spaces are already selling. I invite you to take one of our witch school classes, become part of our spaces group, and come together in this really beautiful way and start your own healing process. Thank you, Marjorie, for being a moderator and a beautiful priestess in my coven and sister. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Temple. I think it was Temple Soul. Thank you all who sent gifts. I appreciate that so much more than you know. I know a lot of times I may not mention or acknowledge it when I'm channeling, because if I stop talking, I lose that flow that's just coming through me. And, you know, you'll see when I'm channeling, I'm definitely speaking in this flow. And when I stop to sometimes acknowledge different things, I lose that flow. And then you see kind of goofball me, who is the normal me when I'm not channeling. You know, they're one and the same, but I am a little bit goofy. I've been falling asleep during these. You know what's interesting about falling asleep is that, you know, just like in plant medicine journeys, if you fall asleep, I believe there's a deep healing happening on a cellular level, just like happens during a plant medicine journey. They say if you fall asleep and you don't have any of these experiences, which has happened to me once, there's a deep cellular level healing that your conscious mind needs to go to sleep for. So trust that if you went to sleep, that's completely fine. You're still integrating on a level that your soul needs. And I don't put every live up on YouTube, but I do try to get a lot of my lives up. So you can go on YouTube, and I put the lives up, so if you want to redo it to be able to hear what I was saying, then you are free to do that. I probably won't have it up until tomorrow though, so you fell asleep twice. That's what we need on this full moon eclipse, really, is deep rest and reflection. So what do the colors mean? I really encourage you to not question what the colors mean, to just trust that the colors were holding you in a frequency that you needed. And it's less about what I believe the color means, because, we can all Google what different colors mean, but sometimes colors feel different than what we are told they mean. So however you felt within that colored circle of light, that's the frequency of love that was holding you. So was it, I don't know if you guys have been hearing this, but my speaker every now and then keeps going like crack, crack, pop. And it just did that. So trust your own interpretation of what that color meant. So you felt safe. So you were held by a frequency of safety. And sometimes that's not something that if you look up purple, it's not going to say safety. But if that's what it felt like for you, that's what it was. And you can trust that. You saw a door with a light behind it. What did the door with the light around it mean for you? That kind of awakens something to like the next chapter of your life. Like it's time to open the door and see what's there for you. What are you afraid to do? What's the next step? Time to open the door. These things, we need to start trusting our own intuition to guide us on what they mean, rather than Google searching them. And what's the other thing? Chat GPT. Like a lot of people are looking to that now. I really encourage you to trust your own intuition and what your body is telling you, what your mind is telling you. A lot of times our mind will lie to us. So, tune into what you're feeling and check with what your mind is saying. Because a lot of times us spiritual people are so in the head that we're thinking that spirit's telling us something, and it's our mind. And so really tap into your feelings during this time right now, especially with this eclipse in Pisces energy. Feel. Trust your intuition. Yes, your intuition is going to come through your feelings, and not your feelings of fear. Your feelings, there's a difference. So what deities do you have? So the deities that I called in while casting that circle are the deities that I most strongly work with, but I work with many of the deities, and honestly, I quite honestly believe all of the deities, many of the deities, if not all of them, are all mirrors of one another. They're just different aspects of the Divine Mother. And so each deity that I work with, they all are mirroring one another. I'm an initiated priestess of Isis, and a lot of people would say that would mean that you should only honor Isis, and if you honor Hecate, you should only honor Hecate. But I actually think Hecate and Isis are likely the same person, as is Caradwyn and Hecate. And so the deeper you go into the deities, the more you find they're all mirrors of one another, different aspects, and that they're all archetypes of existing, like archetypes that exist within you. So thank you, Christina. And I'm going to go for today. Thank you all for being here with me. I will be back on Sunday next week at 10 o'clock. And I hope you all enjoy being in this beautiful space of these deities that we cast around you. I hope you enjoy a gentle, restful eclipse. Blessed be. Thank you, Erin, Gingy, Jillian, Marjorie, Jesse. I'm trying to think who else was here. Betty Joe, Christina. Thank you guys all for your comments, for liking the live, for all the gifts. Again, I appreciate them. Even if I don't acknowledge them in the moment, I see you, I see them, I appreciate you. And I hope to see you next Sunday. Go click the link in my bio and check out all my offerings. It's a great way to support me and keep me coming live every week. Blessed be. I am gonna go rest and drink some water, Marjorie. I hope you do too. Bye, Jess. Bye, Gingy. Bye, Jesse. Thank you, Katie. Blessed be.